Hello Starlets, I'm Sarah from Everyday Starlet. Welcome to my channel. We're bringing a little bit of glamour to everyday life. If you want to join my Starlet squad, be sure you hit that subscribe button. This is actually a requested video. I'm going to be comparing different ways to apply setting powder to your face. I have 3 different techniques. I have a brush, a powder puff, and a damp beauty blender. We're going to try each of these techniques and see which one is the best way to apply face powder. And at the end of the video, I'm going to share with you my favorite way to apply and my least favorite way to apply. So if you want to see the different ways to apply face powder and how well they work and how well they don't, then just keep watching. Okay, so primer and foundation is applied. I'm using my Too Faced Born This Way foundation. I'm going to try to keep it consistent throughout the testing. The powder I'm going to try to use throughout this test is going to be the RCMA No Color Powder. I feel like people either love it or hate it. I just want to keep the powder consistent throughout the process, so you know, we're comparing application and not comparing different types of powder. There you go. The first way I'm going to try is kind of my old faithful. This is kind of the way I usually do powder, is with brush. For under the eyes, which I'm actually going to, I did put my concealer on and I did kind of pat it out with a beauty blender, but I'm just going to kind of do it one more time. I'm using the Real Techniques setting brush, which is my favorite for under the eyes. I just feel like it's just the perfect shape. And you know, I always, like, I'll put the powder on the brush, I'll just sort of tap it a little bit just to get some of the excess off. I really like this application. The concealer I'm using is the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer, if you're curious. I'll keep that consistent too. Those are my favorite. The brush I'm using for the full face is actually, I think I got this, it's a gift package, gift somewhere, I don't know. The It Cosmetics Heavenly Luxe Wand Ball Powder. To be honest, I've tried quite a few powder brushes and most of them are pretty similar. I just went kind of heavy. I don't usually do this much powder all at once. My favorite is probably the Real Techniques Bold Metals powder brush, but I actually have that in the other room because I'm just using it for a photo, so I like this one. I really like soft powder brushes. I know some people like stiffer ones. I really like soft ones. Okay, I will admit, it's not the best technique for like getting in the creases, but I just find I like the naturalness of it. If naturalness is a word. My favorite application. I feel like it's lightweight, provided you're using a base makeup that doesn't have too much drag to it, which if you don't know what that means, I actually didn't know it was even called drag until recently, but basically when you're applying the powder, like it doesn't pull, you know, like there isn't that, like, it's almost like the base is fighting you. I never find it with the Born This Way. I do have a few base makeups that do that though, so provided that your base does not have a lot of drag to it, I really like this technique. I feel like it's nice and natural. If it ever feels slightly too much, you feel like you've overdone it, you can always use face mist, but yeah, I really like this application. I'll try a different one tomorrow and we'll compare. Okay, so today's powder application is going to be using a cotton powder puff. This one is Cala Professional. I actually could not find a powder puff, so I know I have some, but I don't know where they are. So I just grabbed this one from my local Wegmans. I don't really think there's a huge difference in different ones. This one's actually quite soft. It says it's cotton, so I'm still using my RCMA No Color Powder, and I'm going to apply powder with the puff. I actually used to apply my powder with the puff like exclusively when I was first doing makeup. This was like my preferred method, especially because when I was first doing makeup as a teenager, my skin was like super oily. I still have oily skin, but I mean, as a teen it was like, it was insanely oily. So I feel like there is something to applying it with a powder like this. You get a much like heavier application of it, but you're less likely to mess up the makeup underneath because you're using more of like a patting motion as opposed to the brush, which can, I mean, I feel like if you use a soft enough brush, you don't get too much like disturbing the makeup underneath, but you can still disturb some of the makeup underneath. You get a heavier powder application. It's definitely thicker than with a powder, and you can actually powder with a puff and then dust excess off if you get too much with a brush. That is an option too. You get a heavier application, so if you want more of a glowy look, you don't want as much of a matte look, then applying it with a puff is probably not the option for you. You want to go more, a little bit lighter with a powder. I like it. I forgot how much I actually like dotting it on, and I feel like if you have really oily skin, I think it can help because I feel like the puff will absorb some of your facial oil, but some of your makeup does come off. I don't think it really disturbed the makeup underneath all that much, and you also, with any powder, you have the option if you feel like you went a little bit too powdery, you can always spray it with some kind of a face mist or something. I actually have a whole video on face mists, so you can check that one out. So yeah, that's powdering the face with a puff. Tomorrow, we'll try a new technique. Okay, so my final way of applying powder is actually my least favorite. It is with the damp beauty blender. Essentially, I'm gonna be baking. And I actually don't mind baking in the kitchen, but I do not like baking my makeup. So I'm just gonna make sure I don't have any creases in my concealer. And let's try this. Okay, I'm basically going to put powder on a damp beauty blender, and then I'm gonna bake. I see a lot of people doing this on YouTube. And I feel like some people claim that like, oh, this is the best way to do your makeup, you know, for older skin, or it's the best way to do it for younger skin. Or I don't like it. I never have. You know, some people, they just bake under, you know, under the eyes. I'm just kind of going over it all over because why not? I'm doing it for the test. I totally get that some people will bake like before they do their eye makeup, and then they'll do their eye makeup, and then when they brush it off, they think they get like any of the fallout. That's a possibility. I've tried that. It never works that well for me, but I feel like this method makes my face feel really dry, and like it doesn't look cakey yet, but it feels cakey. Normally, you would let this sit for a little while you do like the rest of your makeup or something, and the heat from your body is supposed to help bake it into your skin or whatever. All right, so I'm actually gonna leave this on. I have most of my makeup already on, but I'm gonna leave this on while I do my lipstick, and then I will check back in with you. We'll dust it off and I'll give you an update. Okay, so I finished up my makeup, basically just finished up my lips, and I'm going to, I do think that the powder, I guess, baked, so to speak. It looks less intense, but my face is so oily that I feel like it just soaks up powder. Okay, let's see if we can get a closer up view. This makes my face feel drier than any of the others. On the one hand, it's a little bit surprising because you are using a damp tool to apply it, but if you think about it, like as the dampness evaporates, you know, if you just put water on your face, eventually that evaporates and your face feels even drier than when you started. So, I mean, there is that. It feels the heaviest out of all of them. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it looks bad now. I could see this getting cakey. It's not very natural looking at all. So like from a distance, I think that's the reason why something like baking works really well for photographs, but not quite so much for everyday life. I think it's just, it's too heavy and it could too easily get cakey for everyday life. I do have to admit, with the RCMA, less cakey than when I've tried this with other powders, but I just think for every day, it's too cakey. That might not be the case for everybody, and I know some people bake every day and they're good. Like, they're happy with it. So if that's what you're doing and it's working for you and you're happy with it, more power to you. I just think, you know, for a natural look, and if you're gonna have people like up close and stuff, this is just not my favorite method. I think it should be kind of saved for photo shoots and maybe special occasions type of thing. I'm just not a big fan of this method. Okay, those were my 3 different techniques for applying setting powder. There actually might be others. If there are, let me know. Leave them in the comment section below. I'll test those out too. My favorite application for every day is dusting on with a powder brush. I think you get the most natural application. You get sort of the lightest application. For every day, I feel like this is just the best way to go. If you want a more flawless look, but yet you still want something that is a little bit more light and natural. The powder puff, like this cotton puff, I forgot how much I love applying powder with one of these babies. I mean, I feel like especially if you have oily skin, this works really well. If you want that like flawless face, I think this works really well. A little bit less natural looking than if you were to just dust it on with a powder brush, but still a really great technique, and especially for a special occasion or if you tend to get shiny. This works really well, and I actually just opened this one because I couldn't find it in my other powder puffs, but in my experience, you can just throw these in the wash, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if they're all that way, but I have thrown ones like this in the wash before, and they've done great, so little tip there. My least favorite way to apply powder, which it actually worked pretty well today, I think I actually filmed that earlier today, the other ones I did other days, is applying it with a damp beauty blender. I just don't like the way my face feels quite as well. I feel like it gets cakey really easily. You don't get quite as natural a look. Now, if natural is not what you're going for, like if you need flawless, like absolutely flawless, and you don't really care how your face looks up close, say maybe like a photo shoot or something like that where you're going to be at a distance and you need that flawless look, this might work for you. And this is also a technique that you might have tried and it might actually work really well for you. I just find it tends to get a little bit cakier, it looks less natural, but I think if you have a good setting powder, I think it can work. I think with the other techniques, having a less than perfect setting powder, it can be a little bit more forgiving, but I do think you want to make sure that you have a really quality, not necessarily quality because the one I used isn't really like expensive, but like just a really good setting powder in order to make this technique work. I actually have a whole video testing setting powders. I will link that one to this one. So I want to hear your favorite way to apply setting powder. Let me know in the comment section below, and if you have any other makeup techniques you'd like me to test out, or you know, makeup reviews, any kind of beauty product reviews, let me know. Leave those in the comment section below too. I love your suggestions. If you found this video helpful, please give it a big thumbs up. A while back I was suffering from anxiety and depression, and I truly believe that beauty and makeup saved my life. And I believe it can save yours too. So if you want to join my Starlet squad, be sure you hit that subscribe button. You can follow me on all my social media channels. Links will all be in the description box below, along with links to the stuff that I used. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you join me next time.